I just realized I did not put myself inside the deal. I'm an asshole. Shout out to me. Let's start again. A, all gravity. Any day above ground, live it. I had a nice opening that I just said, and y'all didn't hear it. Yeah, I ain't shit on a Thursday. That's awesome.
Move this man!
I ain't shit on a Thursday. There you go. Thank you, Carlton. Thank you. As I was saying before I realized I was not in the stream, this Israel Hamas / Palestine conflict is quite funny because it's going to help shape 2024's elections. But also, it just shows us that people are dumb. People are dumb. And the reason people are dumb is because they let other people tell them what to think and what to feel without you trusting your own body and your own emotions to think and feel. And I know I kind of took a shot at myself, but I've told y'all many times on this program and other programs, do your own research. Don't listen to what the mainstream media tells you. Don't listen to what social media tells you. Go down the rabbit holes. I know it's scary down there, but you need that. Carry a flashlight. You kind of need that in these times. You need flashlights. Once you start going down rabbit holes, you'll realize the world is not that scary of a place. It's only scary when you're ignorant. But before we start this show, let's see who's in the building. Brooklyn Queen 125, hello. Denise Scales, hello. Carlton Way, hello. Eric Johnson, hello. Carlton Way, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to start on Twitter because our friend, family, Jonathan Greenblatt, he had more to say. Did you think that day when I played his 3 speeches, his 3 appearances was enough? Oh no, he said more. Of course he did. He's platforming as much as he can. And the funny thing is he's been talking all day. Now, shout out to Blacklight. He talked about how the mainstream media is framing the war based on its coverage to try to make the victims, whichever side you want to pick, be the aggressor. And it's funny because Jonathan, you've been talking a lot lately. You have. Tabernacle. We're going to begin here. He said this, I think he said this yesterday. This was a video he put on his YouTube. Oh, yes. Who's ready to hear what Jonathan said? I'm going to have to proof this really quick. There you go. Let's listen to what Jonathan had to say. Fair use.
Jonathan Greenblatt, without further ado, your reaction to the president's speech today?
Well, first of all, I think so many of us are still coping with the unspeakable. I listened to Raf's piece coming in and the stories about children, babies burned in their cribs and children beheaded. We're talking about the unspeakable. And yet, even in this moment, I'm encouraged that President Biden is finding the words to comfort a nation. And this wasn't just an attack on the Israeli people, although it was, or the Jewish community, although it was. It was an attack on all of us. This kind of barbarity, this kind of.
Do you see what it says on the bottom, family? Biden refused to be silent about threats of we'll just say A.S. We're not going to say the word here. We ain't triggering the YouTube algorithm today. I'm going to be very careful on what I say, but I'm going to make sure you guys learn. All right, Biden. All right.
Inhumanity is a threat to civilization as we know it. And so I am glad to hear the president speak with such clarity, without any equivocation, about the sheer evil of Hamas, about the danger of anti-Semitism, his willingness to support the community. Compare that, Nicole, to what we've seen from university presidents in the last couple of days, who have been unable to find the simple courage to say in no uncertain terms, anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, this kind of hate is wrong. And these, look, we have over 1,100 bodies of civilians who were butchered and tortured and maimed. So I'm glad the president spoke the way that he did. I think that will not only encourage the Israeli people and our, the Jewish community, but the rest of the country that wants to know that America not only has Israel's back, but that America retains its moral core, because we're looking for leadership right now.
What is America's moral core, Jonathan? What is that? What is that? Because it's funny that he keeps going on these interviews and these platforms, and he just be talking and he doesn't explain what he means. What is America's moral code? What is it? Imperialism? Are we going to have that conversation? Okay. Cool.
Jonathan, one of the things he said that I wrote down and underlined 4 times, he talked about, because I think this is a moment that calls on all of us, right, to be part of the solution. He talked about taking all of his kids and grandkids to Dachau when they're 14. And I know a lot of people who go to the, oh, we have the sound. Let me play that one more time.
Please.
There is no place for hate in America. Not against Jews, not against Muslims, not against anybody. And we mourn the act you and so many leaders have across the country, showing us what thousands of years of Jewish history has shown us. The enduring strength, and I mean this sincerely, the enduring strength and spirit of the Jewish community. If you excuse a point of personal privilege, you should say in the Senate. That's why I took my kids, everyone when they turned 14 years old, one at a time, put them on a plane and took them to Dachau. I wanted them to see that you could not know what was going on walking through those gates. You could not fail to understand as a country what was going on. And that's a fact. It had a profound impact on my children and my grandchildren. Some thought taking a 14-year-old grandchild was not a mistake, but I took them one at a time. I got 3 more to go. And folks, it's important.
I feel like he's getting at something that we talk about, right? To make sure that it never happens again, you have to know your history. I mean, I talk to people that have taken their kids to the lynching museum for the same reason. I mean, our only bulwark against brutality, against savagery, against the dehumanization of any human is to know the history of the savagery and the brutality against other humans. And I thought that was a really important part of what he had to say today.
Yeah, look, this isn't about politics. This is about principles. This is about basic values. He's at his best when he's not reading notes and doing something still different. That was President Biden from the heart. And you're right. Like, the only way we can fight evil is if we recognize it and we respond to it with clarity, again, and focus. So I've had such a hard time over the last few days because, as Dr. King said, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. But boy, is Joe Biden recognize it and we respond to it with clarity, again, and focus. So I've had such a hard time over the last few days because, as Dr. King said, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends.
Yeah, you didn't say too much about Tamir Rice, but you want to talk about how we stand with our African American brothers and sisters. You and the ADL only come out when the Black Death is mainstream. You, again, have the nerve to quote Dr. King. You're right. His statement is very true also when it comes to you, because you've been very silent when Black people have been going outside trying to get shit from this government. If you really stand with us, your ass wouldn't have said nothing about what Kyrie Irving did. You would have just said, as I disagree with Kyrie and that documentary, but I will stand with him in his rights of free speech. That's what you would have said. Something to that effect. I know you got like 35 script writers over there at the ADL that you keep on payroll. You could have said something in the words of Kanye. Hey, Kanye West has a lot of thoughts and we should respect it. I'm going to be one of those people that'll disagree with him, but I would love for him to have a conversation with me. You didn't even let the man get off before you started. But you want to keep quoting Dr. King. Dr. King would be ashamed of you. He wouldn't even come see you. All right.
But boy, is Joe Biden, and there are other members of Congress. There are groups like the National Action Network. We've seen just a few CEOs say clearly and strongly, "Where are your friends?" And I would just say the analogy to the concentration camps and to the Third Reich. What Hamas was doing was.
No, I didn't have the sound off. I wanted y'all to process that when I paused it last time. I wanted y'all to process what he said.
Literally planning a kind of Fourth Reich right here. There was nothing about.
Y'all gotta watch this, man. Y'all gotta watch this, man. Now he's gonna say that now he's gonna say that what's going on. He's going to equate to the Fuhrer. Y'all gotta watch this. Y'all gotta watch this.
Palestinian liberation going on when they were raping women. There was nothing about a two-state solution when they were implementing their final solution, ravaging teenagers at a concert and just massacring them like that. So I'm laying this out, though, because if we don't call out Hamas, as we did Al-Qaeda and ISIS, for their savagery, for the anti-Semitism and the hatred at the core of their whole raison d'etre, we're just missing the point. And we've learned from the lessons of history that we need to take our enemies at their word. And so I hope that with America's support, Israel will do what it needs to, as much as it can, minimize casualties, protect the sanctity of all life, but eradicate this evil from our midst before it does any more harm.
Uh-huh. So it's funny you said eradicate this evil. Eradicate this evil. I guess we can start there, family. I guess we can start there. I guess we can start there. Jonathan Greenblatt.
Let me go here. There's a growing concern.
You want to explain this to us, Jonathan? More people came in. The Troubleman twins are here. Carla Lockhart and Val Williams are in the building. Here comes the Troubleman twins. All right. Hello. I think I said hi to Denise, but if I didn't, hello, Denise. Sybil, hello. Iron Will, hello. Blacklight, what's up? Yeah. You want to explain this, Jonathan, how Israel created Hamas? Would you like to have this conversation? I mean, you can come over. We can have this conversation. I'm actually curious. It's funny. America, Israel, the UK, France, Germany, Australia, they always create their enemies. They're like the world's Spider-Man. They always create their enemies. Oh, hell no. Hell no. We're not going to play that music. That music sucks, boy. Let's go down a little bit.
Militant group Hamas has carried out brutal acts of terror against Israeli civilians, and Israeli and American leaders are always keen to tell us how dangerous and evil Hamas is.
The inhumanity of Hamas.
I have no sympathy for Hamas.
That keep shelling Israel with thousands of rockets and mortar shells.
What if I told you that Israel helped create Hamas? Officially, Hamas, which is the acronym
Fair
of an Arabic
use.
phrase meaning Islamic resistance movement, was founded in 1987 at the start of the first Palestinian Intifada, or uprising against the Israeli occupation. But its roots were planted much earlier. The Hamas founder, Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, was a half-blind, disabled Palestinian cleric and member of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Brotherhood had been repressed by the Egyptians in Gaza prior to 1967. But once the Israelis invaded and occupied the Strip, they didn't just turn a blind eye to these Islamists, they encouraged them. See, the Israelis, especially right-wing Israelis, wanted to undermine the power of the dominant Palestinian political force at that time, the nationalist PLO, at the heart of which was the secular Fatah party of Yasser Arafat, their bête noire.
Shout out to Egypt. And by the way, family, if you have learned anything from this channel, where is Egypt now a member of? Put it in the chat. What brotherhood did Egypt just enter themselves into?
جئتكم يا سيادة الرئيس بغصن الزيتون في يدي وببندقية الثائر في يدي.
By empowering Sheikh Yassin and the Muslim Brotherhood, Israeli leaders thought they could divide and rule the occupied Palestinians, play them off against each other, secular nationalists against religious Islamists. So in 1978, when Yassin wanted to officially register his Islamic Association, which was basically the precursor to Hamas, the Israelis were only too keen to help. Yassin built and grew a network of Islamist social institutions across Gaza, including schools and clubs and mosques, and Israel helped fund some of those projects. Most American politicians have no clue about any of this, although the former Republican Congressman Ron Paul once made this point on the floor.
Thank you, Val Williams. January 1st, they will become an official member of BRICS. Yeah. If y'all really think Egypt doesn't have a stake in this, y'all are crazy. And before I continue, shout out to Black Light Revelations for being a member for 4 months. And Eric Johnson for being a member for 5 months. Remember, it's only 99 cents. You help fund the channel and help me get more toys for the baby. Thank you so much. Continue.
Of the House.
Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat.
Arafat himself told an Italian newspaper, quote, Hamas is a creature of Israel. He even claimed that former Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin admitted as much to him, calling it a fatal error. Now, you might be wondering, why should I believe mad Ron Paul or the famously shady Yasser Arafat? Well, you don't have to. You can believe top Israeli and US officials who've basically owned up to all this. Brigadier Yitzhak Segev, for example, who was the Israeli military governor in Gaza and later told a New York Times reporter that he helped finance the Islamic movement. The Israeli government gave me a budget, he said, and the military government gives to the mosques. Colonel David Hakam, who worked in Gaza in the late 1980s as an Arab affairs expert in the Israeli military, has admitted that the original sin was Israeli support for Yassin in the late 70s. But at the time, he has argued, nobody thought about the possible results. Well, Avner Cohen did. Cohen was the Israeli official who was responsible for religious affairs in Gaza for more than 2 decades, and who now says, quote, Hamas, to my great regret, is Israel's creation. In Gaza for more than 2 decades, and who now says, quote, Hamas, to my great regret, is Israel's.
Just like a certain terrorist group called Al Qaeda was America's creation. And shout out to Denise Scales for becoming a member. Again, it's only 99 cents. And the baby want to build. So help me buy the baby more Legos. It's only 99 cents. But there you go, family. Again, the Western world is Spider-Man. They create their own enemies. And then when atrocities happen, then they want to come to regret. But also, they're going to get pushed to a point where they're going to be like Spider-Man in the comics when he fought Kingpin. He's going to batter and break them, but he's not going to delete them. He wants everybody to know that he did it. And what did Israel say the other day? We're going to launch an attack and a counteroffensive that their generations will remember.
Creation. Yeah, Cohen's words. He actually wrote an official report to his superiors in the mid-1980s, warning them not to play divide and rule in the occupied territories and calling on Israel to, quote, break up this monster before this reality jumps in our face. But no one else on the Israeli side really took the possibility of blowback seriously at that time. They never do they? Hamas has since killed far more Israeli civilians than any secular Palestinian militant group, and its leaders have been pretty viciously anti-Israeli and even anti-Semitic in their rhetoric.
لا مكان لكم بيننا ولا مستقبل لكم بين الأمم إنكم بلا زوال.
Sheikh Yassin would eventually be assassinated by an Israeli airstrike in Gaza.
Sheikh Yassin and its organization, the Hamas, are responsible to the killings of more than 400 Israelis. So the question shouldn't be why now. I think it should be why not before.
Why not before? Well, because before, Israel was actually nudging and winking at Yassin and co, building them up as a rival to Arafat's Fatah.
You know what's funny? It's just so fascinating to find out that Palestine was there before Israel. It's just, I'm telling you, world history is so fascinating. And Palestine was kind of like, Palestine was kind of like Libya. They had their own self-sustained government, their own self-sustained economy, and they were among the best. Again, this was post-war, World War II. They were there. They were thriving. And all of a sudden they said, bam, we have to create this new nation called Israel. And we're going to divide up Palestine. Damn. Global imperialism is a motherfucker. But continue.
The die was cast for blowback. Blowback, incidentally, that they decided to double down on when they assassinated Yassin.
You can hear the crowds chanting for Hamas, and any idea that this operation would actually suppress or diminish that organization seems to be ill-judged.
The inconvenient truth is that Hamas is in part a creature of Israel's own making, an enemy that Israel spent more than 20 years helping to build up, and then spent the next 20 years, the past 20 years that is, trying to bomb, besiege, and blockade out of existence. The 3 Gaza wars fought by Israel against Hamas since 2008 killed around 2,000 Palestinian civilians and a dozen Israeli civilians. That's the real human cost of blowback. David Long, a former Middle East expert at the US State Department under Ronald Reagan, told journalist Robert Dreyfus, I thought the Israelis were playing with fire. I didn't realize they'd end up creating a monster. But I don't think you ought to mess around with potential fanatics. It's a lesson both the Israelis and the Americans never seem to learn, though. And as usual, innocent people, in this case Palestinians and Israelis, continue to lose their lives as a result.
Interesting. Right? So that's a quick lesson on Hamas and how they were. Oh, yes, Blacklight. Yes, I saw that. They are putting how Israel was formed. Just like I told y'all, ever since this economy started becoming more mainstream as a talking point, they start putting up Thomas Sowell videos talking about some, oh, he predicted this and he predicted the Israel-Palestine conflict. I'm like, what did he predict? They've been fighting each other since Israel was formed. 75 years. We knew it was going to pop off eventually. Pops off every decade. You said nothing. Hell, if that's the case, I should be platformed. I was trying to see if the Gaza Strip had anything of value, like natural resources, but I really can't find anything. I found this, though. It's just going to be very interesting. This may give us a clue onto why people want to go get after it. Now, Tabernacle. This is World Fat Book, courtesy of the CIA. So, we are looking at their economy. Now, this is as updated as it can be as of 2021. So it says real GDP, purchasing power parity. So as of 2019, they had almost 30 billion in purchasing power. Then, of course, 2020, we know what happened. It fell a little bit to 25.95 billion. And 2 years ago, it started creeping back up to 27.79 billion. And it's 142 on the world stage. Real GDP growth, 2019, 1.36%. 2020, it lost 11.32% of its GDP. And in 2021, it bounced back to 7.05%. So we have at least a 17% percentage point jump in a year, which is pretty good. 56 on the world scale. Inflation rate is 1%. They have 1.25 million people employed. Industries, textiles, food processing, and furniture. Agricultural products, tomatoes, cucumbers, olives, poultry, milk, potatoes, sheep, milk, eggplants, and gourds. Unemployment rate, pretty high. Pretty high. 25% across the board last 3 years. It's kind of high. Because we know most people go into Israel for work, but you know how that works out. Youth unemployment rate is very high. 30% live below the poverty line. Now let's look at energy. There we go. Installed generating capacity 215,000 kilowatts. That was in 2020. Consumption as of 2019, I'm sorry, 5.7 billion kilowatts. And doesn't export anything. Kind of boring, right? Well, then we have this. Palestine's natural resources. Yeah, Torian, get that. Or I wish it was Friday. I would tell you go get that go ahead suit from Jamaican spot, Torian, but you know, you were like, that ain't I ain't no go ahead. It's Rizzo, baby. Okay, so back to the lesson. So it says focus on Palestine's natural resources. This came out in 2019. Historic Palestine has long had an abundance of natural resources ranging from fresh and groundwater, arable land, and more recently oil and natural gas. In the 7 decades since the establishment of the State of Israel, these resources have been compromised and exploited through a variety of measures. These include widespread Palestinian disposition of land and ongoing Nakba, exploitation of water through failed negotiations, and a finders keepers approach to gas and oil found in or under occupied land. Water as a weapon. Israel's decades-long water war against Palestinians often goes unnoticed by the international community. Tracing 3 different battlefronts, Muna Dajani looks at how military strikes, security programs, and permit systems destroy Palestinian water infrastructure and local resource management systems and calls for change. Funny thing is, on Twitter today, I saw a video of some jackass over there making fun of Palestinians not having water and electricity, and apparently some Arab hackers got his account and basically effed with it. Yeah, kind of lends credence to what these people are talking about. Water is a very valuable resource in that area of the world. The discovery of oil and gas. The Israeli occupation does not only exist above ground. Tarek Bakoni examines how Israel enjoys a gas bonanza while barring the Gaza Strip from tapping its own fields. He argues that Palestinian dependency on Israeli energy amidst U.S. calls for economic peace undermines Palestinians' rights and puts forth recommendations to challenge the status quo. The struggle over land, we've heard about that. Climate change is a threat multiplier. I guess the liberals will love that. But if you guys want to read this, I will put this in the chat for later. We move on though, family, because don't worry, we're gonna get to the Turkey stuff soon. The UN has met Tabernacle via Al Jazeera. UN Security Council meets on Gaza, Israel, but fails to agree on statement. So when it comes to the quote unquote Arab media, Israel, you could take second fiddle. You take second chair. Sit down. U.S. pushes for harsh condemnation of Hamas, but fails to achieve the consensus necessary for a statement. Well, this was 3 days ago, so Biden came out yesterday. Yeah, he came out yesterday and said something. So, all right. The UN Security Council has met behind closed doors in an emergency session amid the war between Israel and Gaza, but failed to achieve the unanimity needed for a joint statement. Sorry. At least 1,100 people have already been deleted since Hamas, the Palestinian group that controls the blockaded Gaza Strip, launched an assault on Israeli towns on Saturday and took hundreds of people hostage. Israel retaliated by declaring a state of war and pounding densely populated Gaza, deleting hundreds of people. The United States called on the council's 15 members to strongly condemn Hamas. Let's see who's on the UN Security Council. Just for y'all's reference. Here we go. The current members. Now, these are permanent and non-permanent members. 5 permanent members: China, France, Russia, Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, the United States, and 10 non-permanent members elected for 2-year terms by the General Assembly with end of term year, which is funny as hell because Russia's on there. Russia's going to play a part in this later. Albania, Brazil, Ecuador, Gabon, Ghana, Japan, Malta, Mozambique, Switzerland, and the United Arab Emirates. What did we see in there, family? Let me see if somebody can pick it up. What did we see in there? We're going to read those names again. 5 permanent members: China, France, Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States. 10 non-permanent members: Albania, Brazil, Ecuador, Gabon, Ghana, Japan, Malta, Mozambique, Switzerland, United Arab Emirates. What do we see in there, family? I'm going to go back to the other thing I was just reading. There are a good number of countries that condemned Hamas attacks. They're obviously not all. Senior U.S. diplomat Robert Wood told reporters after the session, "You could probably figure out one of them without me saying anything," said Wood, in a reference to Russia, whose relations with the West have deteriorated sharply since its invasion of Ukraine. The council met for about 90 minutes. I heard a briefing from the UN Middle East peace envoy, Tor Wennesland. Diplomats said members led by Russia were hoping for a broader focus than condemning Hamas. Yes, Iron Will, Switzerland is a neutral country, but in this, they know the power that being on the Security Council brings. Carla Lockhart said the Palestinians need the water machine invented by the black engineer named Moses. No, because then they'll bomb them and take it. We don't need that. Let's keep that technology for ourselves. A statement needs to be agreed upon by consensus. My message was to stop the fighting immediately and go to a ceasefire and to meaningful negotiations, which was told for decades by the Security Council, says Vasily Nebenzia, Russia's UN ambassador. By the way, Hamas did call for talks. This is partly the result of unresolved issues, he said. The United Arab Emirates, which normalized relations with Israel as part of a landmark 2020 deal, said it expected more UNSC meetings on the crisis. I think everyone understands that today the situation is one of grave concern, said the UAE ambassador Lana Zaki Nusseibeh. Many members of the council believe that a political horizon leading to a two-state solution is the only way to finally solve this conflict, she said. You see what they said? You see what they said? They need a two-state solution. That's why I said the other day, let them have their own country and see what happens. Path to peace. Neither Israel nor the Palestinian Authority, based in the West Bank, and a political rival of Hamas attended the meeting because they are currently on the Security Council. The Palestinian ambassador Riyad Mansour called on diplomats to focus on ending the Israeli occupation. Regrettably, history for some media and politicians starts when Israelis are deleted, he said. This is not a time to let Israel double down on its terrible choices. This is a time to tell Israel it needs to change course, that there is a path to peace where neither Palestinians nor Israelis are deleted. An open letter sent to UNSC members ahead of their meeting, three Palestinian human rights organizations said the UN's inaction has enabled the latest violence and meant its members were complicit in what had happened. Ooh, they talking. Yo, this site is the worst. Oh my God, what is it with these ads? They get me. Jesus. It goes on and on and on. They say that Gaza's food and water supply will run out very soon. UN warns UK to send Royal Navy ships and aircraft to support Israel. Yeah. Okay. Whew. Well, we have the latest. But I have a question for the family. What is Israel's role in this conflict? What is their role in this conflict? Now, we've heard that Israel created Hamas to stop Arafat. How does Turkey fit into this? Now, we all know, if you know your global history and your global geopolitics, Turkey is very strategic for the Middle East, for countries that want to go to the Middle East. That is a very big base for refueling and strategic advantage. So again, I'm not picking sides here. I stand with Black America, but we have some questions. We're going to go down that rabbit hole today. Tabernacle. This is back in 2020. How Israel's Mossad links with Riyadh, that is Saudi Arabia, FETO to target Turkey. Now, for those, again, who know their geopolitics, Turkey and Israel are not the best of friends. Turkey's even come out and said that, Israel needs to stand down. How do they operate against Turkey and Turkish intelligence? By using journalist cover-ups. How does Israel operate in this chain? Daily Saba has access exclusive details on the operations of Israeli intelligence in Turkey and the Middle East carried out through media and journalist spies. The details of the dark intelligence and terror network created by Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the Gulenist terror group, or FETO, using the media have been uncovered. The operations carried out through the media in the past few years, led by the alliance of Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and FETO, which is a terror and espionage structure, have come to light one by one. Daily Saba has access exclusive details on the operations of Israeli intelligence in Turkey and the Middle East carried out through media and journalist spies. It is striking that the common targets of these operations are Turkey and its National Intelligence Agency, MIT. On March 18, a news article was published on intelitimes.co.il, one of Israel's operational media websites, with the title Disclosure: The image of the Iran Kurds Forces Terror and Intelligence Branch in Turkey. The photo of the article depicted Turkish territory, more than half of which was covered with Iranian flags. Previously, the Daily Makor Rishon, known for its closeness to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has used the following statements in the article by Pazit Rabin with the headline Sultan and Soleimani, which showed Turkish intelligence head Hakan Fidan as a target. Now that Qasem Soleimani is buried underground, it's time to focus on the conspiracies of his twin Hakan Fidan. While Rabin rejected the claims of threats towards Fidan in a statement he gave to Saudi-funded independent Turkish writer Benan Kepsutlu on January 30th, he summarized his article's main thesis as Qasem Soleimani's source of inspiration being Hakan Fidan's ideas and former Prime Minister Ahmed, whatever the hell his last name is, new Ottoman ideology. In fact, trying to establish such an enforced link between Turkish intelligence head and Iran is not only really doing. There's cooperation and single voice in this matter, financed by FETO, the United Arab Emirates, and from time to time Riyadh. In the past, FETO member police officers and prosecutors tried to arrest thousands of people, including high-ranking politicians, bureaucrats, soldiers, businessmen, journalists, and diplomats in Turkey within the scope of the Salam Tevhid case in 2010 on the charges of carrying out spy activities for Iran. Following 2012 attacks on Israeli diplomatic missions in India and Georgia, the Salam Tevhid conspiracy case was expanded by Mossad through adding shared information to the file with the police service under the control of FETO, and the plotters attempting to include Fidan through intelligence provided by Israel to FETO. Within this scope, it is no coincidence that the claims of the Salam Tevhid conspiracy case launched by FETO and the perception operations of Fidan through media for 10 years overlap completely. Get off my motherfucking screen. Moreover, many intelligence reports verify that FETO ensured its intelligence cooperation with Israel through the Jewish diaspora in the U.S. I'm going to read that again. What the hell? Here it is. What the fuck? Here we go. Within this scope, it is no coincidence that the claims of the Salam Tevhid conspiracy case launched by FETO and the perception operations on Fidan through media for 10 years overlap completely. Moreover, many intelligence reports verify that FETO ensured its intelligence cooperation with Israel through the Jewish diaspora in the U.S. and funded Haaretz, one of Israel's leading political newspapers on the international stage, for anti-Turkey propaganda. Interesting. So Turkey is going to be put at odds with the West. Jesus. Get off my screen. I don't care about none of this. Why do we say that, family? Because then we have this. This came out yesterday. If it acts like an organization, Turkey president warns Israel amid war. Turkey's Erdogan usually uses the word organization when he refers to the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which he listed as a terror group by Turkey. Israel is not conducting itself like a state in the Gaza Strip, Turkey's president said on Wednesday, as Israel pounded the territory after a Hamas onslaught. Israel should not forget that if it acts more like an organization rather than a state, it'll finish by being treated as such. Recep Tayyip Erdogan said, attacking shameful methods of the Israeli army in the densely populated Gaza Strip. Bombing civilian sites, killing civilians, blocking humanitarian aid, and trying to present these as achievements are the acts of an organization and not a state, he said. President Gone. Usually uses the word organization when he refers to the Kurdistan's Workers Party, or PKK, which is listed as a terror group by Turkey and its Western allies. We think that a war should have an ethic and that both parties should respect it. What? I guess he's never heard of the term all's fair in love and war. All right. I never heard that term ethical war and never heard that, but all right. Unfortunately, this principle is gravely violated in Israel and in Gaza, he said, denouncing the murders of civilians on Israeli territory and the blind massacre of innocents in Gaza subjected to constant bombardment. Yeah. So there you go, family. That's briefly what I can give y'all as a different perspective of what's going on here. If I had to hazard a guess, I think Turkey is going to become a major player in this. Again, they have the military advantage because a lot of the US and Western allies use Turkey as a staging area for when they get to go to the Middle East. But Turkey's also been spending the last 2 decades setting themselves up to become a major force on the world stage in terms of their military. So we're going to look up, before I go, top militaries in the world. And we'll also talk about Russia a little bit. So this is Business Insider's 25 top militaries in the world. So they have Germany at number 25. 24 is Thailand. 23 is Taiwan. 22 is Saudi Arabia. I don't know if they're doing capoeira, but all right. 21 is Spain. 20 is Poland. 19, Vietnam. 18th is Israel. They're 18th. Even with our funding, they're 18th. 17 is Iran. 16 is Australia. 15 is Ukraine. We know why. 14th is Egypt. 13th is Indonesia. 12 is Brazil. 11, Turkey. Turkey's almost in the top 10, but they're better positioned than Israel. Bet the Western media won't tell you that. Ten is Italy. 9 is France. 8 is Japan. 7 is Pakistan. 6 is South Korea. 5th is the UK. 4th is India. 3 is China. 2 is Russia. And we all know who number 1 is, the US. Turkey's going to be very powerful. I want to see when Turkey tells the US and the Western allies, you can't use our bases. Ain't going to be no land in here. This is a no-fly zone for y'all. We'll see what they're going to do then. And maybe they already told them that because they're using carriers to get as close to Israel as they can. So we'll see. This is going to be a very interesting next 2 months. It's going to be very interesting. But in regards to Russia, Russia and Turkey are cool. They're very cool with each other. Turkey's been very neutral on this war, but again, they're going to be brought into it. Russia's been very cool. Well, we'll do that. We'll show you Russia and Turkey's relations, and then I'll get up out of here and get ready for the show tonight, where we're going to talk about the 1,000 kids that have been missing in Ohio. So here we go. This was on NPR back in the day. Fair use. We're going to let the AI talk for once.
As the U.S. and other Western countries imposed sanctions against Russia over its invasion of Ukraine, one ally has kept business going. Turkey, which is a member of NATO, has more than doubled its trade with Russia in 2022 compared to the year before. And that has created breathing room for Russia's squeezed economy. NPR's Fatma Tanis reports on what Turkey has gotten out of it.
To understand modern Turkish-Russian economic ties, one has to go back 30 years to the fall of the Soviet Union, says Turkey's former trade attaché to Moscow, Aydin Sezer.
Biz buna bavul ticareti diyoruz, kısaca shuttle trade.
That's when an informal exchange of goods known as shuttle trade began. Travelers would carry goods back and forth and sell them on the streets. But the relationship took another huge leap since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Turkish businesses swooped in to fill the void left by Western companies, setting new trade records. Today, Turkey is in the top 3 of Russia's global trade partners. It's kept a neutral stance in the war, or you could say plays both sides. It supplies Ukraine with drones, weapons, armored vehicles, but keeps doing business with Russia.
Imposing sanctions on Russia at this point will penalize Turkish economy rather than the Russian economy because of gas dependency that we have with them.
That's Ibrahim Kalın, chief advisor to Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. There are other economic ties as well. Millions of travelers from Russia visit Turkey's Mediterranean beaches every year, bringing significant cash flow. The war has also changed the dynamics between the leaders of the two countries, says former Turkish trade attaché Aydin Sezer.
Türkiye-Rusya ilişkileri kopma noktasındaydı.
Before the war began, the relationship between the two nations and their leaders, Erdogan and Russian President Vladimir Putin, was on and off. Turkey could stand to benefit from a weaker Russia. They are on opposing sides of several regional conflicts, and their forces have even clashed in Syria. When Turkey first sent weapons to Ukraine, Russia banned flights to Turkey in response, briefly blocking all tourist travel at the height of the season.
Erdoğan-Putin ilişkisi
Sezer says the only thing that prevented more serious battlefield clashes was that Erdogan and Putin saw their economies could help each other. And now, with Turkey increasing its imports from Russia by more than 200%, Sezer says the balance has tipped.
Putin at the moment is seriously reliant on Turkey and Erdogan, and we've seen that there's nothing he won't do to keep Erdogan happy. It's like every day Putin takes a new carrot out of his hat.
But analysts say Erdogan is also reliant on money from Russia to keep the economy going as he faces election in the upcoming year. The NATO members' close ties with Russia has made the U.S. and European countries uneasy. U.S. Treasury and State Department officials make regular trips to Turkey to speak with officials as well as businessmen, warning of penalties if they help Russia evade Western sanctions. Gönül Tol, the director of Middle East Institute's Turkey program, says it's a fine line for Erdogan to walk.
He needs Putin, and he will not jeopardize that close partnership that he has cultivated over the years. But that does not mean that he will throw away Turkey's partnership with the Western world.
In fact, Tol says, some lawmakers in Washington see Turkey potentially playing a different role here, as it did in the Cold War.
It's becoming increasingly clear that if you want to curb Russian influence, Turkey plays an important role there.
Turkey used its influence to convince Russia to let Ukrainian grain be exported again to the world, negotiated several prisoner exchanges, and has so far managed to prop up its economy. But as the war keeps going, It's unclear how long Turkey can continue its balancing act without risking its ties with the West.
They don't care, bruh. They see bricks. They don't care. Again, I just told you they're being neutral on this Israel-Gaza thing. They're being neutral. They don't care. They never did. But all right. Y'all want everybody in the world to care. I say let them fight amongst themselves, see what happens. That's what y'all usually like to do in war anyway, because you're going to profit off either side anyway. So do what it do. We got problems at home. But Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said that they stand with Israel. For those who know, you know. But before I get up out of here, family, the big homie said something. Y'all know who the big homie is. Nah, we're not talking about TD. TD is like he be like the medium homie around these parts. But you know, the big homie says something.
No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise. No medicine, there'd be no mayonnaise.
That's right. The big homie Trump says something. He did a speech. I was contemplating doing the thing again, trying to play his whole speech. Well, we know he don't be talking on. He don't be hitting on too much. So yeah, we gonna hear what the big homie said about this Israel-Palestine conflict. Let me hear what y'all think about that. Fair use.
The $6 billion was a tremendous amount of money, but nothing compared to the hundreds of billions of dollars that Biden allowed them to make in oil and other things. Hundreds of billions. They became a rich nation in 3 years. That's why they're doing this. They have so much money. They don't know what to do with it. They had no money. They were broke. And then there was the inevitable attack 4 days later, which I predicted. And then 2 nights ago, I read all of Biden's security people. Can you imagine? National defense people. And they said, gee, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack from the north because that's the most vulnerable spot. I said, wait a minute. You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart. The press doesn't like when they say it. You know, I said that President Xi of China, 1.4 billion people, he controls it with an iron fist. I said, he's a very smart man. They killed me the next day. I said he was smart. What am I going to say? But Hezbollah, they're very smart. And they have a national defense minister or somebody saying, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack us from the north. So the following morning they attacked. They might not have been doing it, but if you listen to this jerk, you would attack from the north because he said that's our weak spot. Whoever heard of officials saying on television that they hope the enemy doesn't attack in a certain area? Now, unless it's a con job. But you know what a con job is? You're waiting there ready. You want them if you want them, but they weren't ready. They weren't ready. You know, say what you want. Israel was not ready. This was a big surprise. This was a terrible thing that happened. They weren't ready. But if you wanted them to attack because you've got 1 million people there with guns and you're going to blast the hell, then you do exactly. But they didn't have that. They didn't have that. Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, even bragged just days before the attack that the Middle East seems to be quite quiet. That was good. They really, honestly, what they've done, it's a shame. You look at the world with all of the problems.
There you go. There's the big homie. 2024 is going to be fun, family. And I'm going to make sure to be here with you all the way up to November 5th, 2024. Or we might have the same administration we have, or we might have a new one. We'll see. A lot can happen in a year. But anyway, I'm going to get up out of here and go cook family dinner. And then I will be back with y'all at 6 o'clock to talk about these missing kids, because we need to educate the family on the storm that is coming, because it's not here yet. I'd like to thank y'all for being here. Hopefully you learned something today. If you did, I've done my job. If you have not learned anything, I will be better next time. And before I go, I'd like to thank Val Williams for the $5. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, y'all. Take care. Stay safe. And you know what to do when agents of chaos trying to mess up your day. Always remember,